I'd like to call the Master Plan Implementation Committee meeting to order. LakeCAM is recording the meeting. I'd like to ask you all to rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we have 6 items tonight. Item number 1 is complete. Item number 2, I'm sorry, before we get into that, should we take a roll call? With apologies. So,
Denise Barbuto.
Ari Sky.
Rodney Dixon.
Joseph Chamberlain.
Rita Garbutt.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving forward, review and possible vote to approve the meeting minutes for October 17th.
I make such a motion.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, minutes are accepted with no corrections. Agenda item 3, meet with Mr. Mark Knox, Chairman of the Planning Board, to review the Planning Board's priorities and goals on the Master Plan Implementation Chart updated on June 20th of 2023. Good evening.
Good evening. You don't happen to have another copy of that
You
because
can have mine.
that one I got a couple months ago. I misplaced.
Okay.
Where would you like to start, Mr. Dixon?
Wherever you would like to start, Mr. Knox, what we've been doing is working on the master plan, obviously, for quite some time, and as goals are achieved or not achieved, that we update the matrix, and then the matrix is published. We've been doing this for quite a while. The review, I guess, for the next plan is going to be 2025, correct? Is it 2025?
10 years, so 2030.
2030, sorry.
Right.
Budget season. Anyway, 2030. So in preparation for that, we know that things change in the town. I felt like we need to get back to basics and start meeting with the chairs of the different committees that have a vested interest in the plan, and also to ask respectfully if we could be, the master plan could be part of a standing agenda item with the planning board if possible. And if not, if the planning board, through the planning board member that sits on the committee, could provide updates for us so we could then update the master plan.
So when you say master plan be a standing item on planning board's agenda, do you mean just for our discussion in order to discuss a matrix item or whatever, and then to be able to send an update monthly or thereabouts?
As needed, but just generally speaking, when you're conducting business, the planning board is conducting business, they have the master plan in their mind. If they could, that would be a real big help. It just, all the committees, and this one included, we're working in silos, and when we try to get information, we do ask, but it's been such a long time that we've asked. I'd like to kind of change the approach a little bit and then come back. What we discussed here in the committee is to start calling the different committees to just give us an update. So if there's no updates, say for a month or two, the planning board, there's no reason to reach out. If there are updates that pertain to the master plan, and especially the matrix, then just update the committee. So then what we will do is we'll go ahead and update the matrix, and we can have it as close to real time as possible, and then share that with the public on the, yes?
Now, I was just gonna say, I think when the planning board decides what items are priorities for you, that, they don't have to go through, I don't think, go through the whole thing.
No, absolutely. So
Just
thank you for the
work on-
clarification.
Well, maybe it would be beneficial, and, keep in mind also that everything the planning board does isn't necessarily matrix related. And I know you know that, but
Yep.
I'm just saying, so on a bi-weekly basis, we may have a site plan review, an ongoing definitive subdivision plan in front of us, as well as maybe smaller normal things like approval not required plans on the agenda. So we have our own goals that the board has kind of put together that, that might be beneficial, as maybe that gets circulated to master plan implementation committee, as part of that update. So you can kind of see what we're doing, what we've done, in addition to the matrix items.
Yeah, that
You know,
makes
'cause
sense.
there's a lot on our plates
Oh, yeah.
outside of this, but it's not something that we're trying to push off as much as just sometimes the regular business kind of overtakes some of that.
Right, understood. And yeah, there's something here that would dovetail into the business of your board. Then that, I think that's where, you know, where it would meet. You'd be aware of it, communicate it to the committee. That would be great. We're not asking you to prioritize this. You just rather keep it, like, you know, like Rita said, if there's items for you that are prioritized, and if they relate to the master plan, you know, let us know. We can update this. Because what we found a couple of years, I think it was about 2 years ago now, we updated this, or was it 2 years
you had
ago?
a June.
It's dated 2020. You mean?
So 3 years ago. Yeah, when we actually sat down after not meeting for quite a while,
Yeah, it's probably about 2
what we
years.
had done is we went through the original to see what, if any, goals were accomplished. And we, much to our surprise and pleasure, there was a lot that was accomplished. It just wasn't, you know, because of our lack of meeting and other reasons, we didn't update the matrix, you know, as close to real time as possible. But we were pleasantly surprised that a lot was accomplished. And that's our goal, is to get things that have been done that may not have been communicated, to somewhat formalize the process for communication, for that information to flow to the committee so we can update.
So I'm kind of jumping around on this a little bit, kind of looking. And I think actually, Rita, we might have discussed this on the second page. We got the planning board as one of the lead parties on transfer development rights, and I don't think we're going to do that.
When you say page 2 or the second page, can you tell me the strategy or the goal, actually the goal?
Land use strategy 2-3-3, investigate transfer of development rights. It's
Okay.
in strategy, it's the second box down.
Okay, thank
First
you.
one with writing.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't know that any community has been able to do that. It's,
No, and you seem to talk about it and people just kind of
Yeah.
poo-poo it, and it's just, I don't think it's something that we want to do. It's probably something that was put in as a wishful thing by Serped when they
yeah.
did the 2020 master plan. But, you'll find that with some of these things that it's just, I don't think that Lakeville residents would be welcoming of those items, and we're just not gonna pursue that one.
So you want me to put, will not pursue?
I mean, where there are 7 years left in this master plan, I would maybe, to not shut out future boards, say not currently being pursued.
And not trying to think of the briefest wording, you know, not recommended by planning board, something like that.
If I may, Mr. Chair, on page 1, I think the only thing we haven't done is, goal 2-2, which is create zoning districts that encourage mixed-use village-type developments in specific locations. I don't know if that's a priority for the planning board.
I would say that's something we'd consider addressing in the future. I know that from reading the master plan, that was specific to the intersection of 79 and 18 and the intersection of Vaughn Street and 105 were, I think, the two focused areas. I don't think that's an undesirable strategy, but I don't think that the town's not hurting by not going forward with that in the immediate future. And I do think, you know, there are some issues with parking and things like that that it creates that we'd really need to work out and figure that out before we try to make a zoning change.
So if the opportunity presented itself, it's something you, planning board would consider.
One of the
Yeah.
problems when you start doing something like that, to set aside a particular area, you get the accusations of spot zoning.
Yep, it has to be big enough,
Big enough, yep.
it
yep,
can't be
yep. Can't be a little.
10 parcels,
Yeah.
it really needs to
Yeah.
be an area by an area
Yeah,
that's substantial enough to say we, you know, created what it asked for.
Right.
When, you know, village size, not a block.
Right.
So on the back, I think that Rita's point, good point, and that concludes the first page of either it's been done or that's something that we would consider pursuing in the future. On the second page, I would go down to, you have in green, the OSRD, which obviously that came up this
Yeah.
most recent town meeting. That is something that we intend to come back to, just with a modified version for spring town
You
meeting.
pulled that off the meeting.
Yeah,
So you're gonna revisit that
yep.
at town meeting?
Well, we're gonna
Well, not at town
continue,
meeting, but in preparation.
we're gonna continue to work on it this winter so that hopefully we have a draft that, I'd like to go with a zoning change like that with 5 members in the affirmative for support,
Okay.
not just a simple majority or.
So I'll put the Springtown meeting, 2024.
That's what, May, usually somewhere.
No, we changed the date
Yeah.
to June.
June. That's right. Because of the change in the personnel on the board of.
No,
Select board?
no,
No?
well, because, well, we only held it once in May, the 20 years I was town administrator, because state aid numbers don't come
Come
out.
out, yeah.
And the selectmen would always postpone it, so this alleviates that whole process of voting to.
That was one big reason. The other reason was that the select board felt like it was unfair to have a newly elected board member
Right.
have to make a, you have to advocate for a budget a month after they came into office.
They still call those cherry sheets, do they?
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, still cherry sheet.
because it was on pink
On
paper.
pink paper, right. Yep.
Okay.
So the next item on page 2, the bottom portion of that matrix box, modify existing zoning bylaw to allow moderate densities in multifamily housing. I would align that sort of with the village style stuff that would, and maybe that would be a part of that component, would be, I think that those items require town water and town sewer as, or one of, if not both, to create densities like that. So I would say that's an on the horizon thing, not a current item.
Okay.
And then, I know we try to, on the next item, on page 3, the first item, work in partnership with local developers for senior housing, variety of housing units. You know, that's something with, say, the recent Rocky Woods proposal. That was something, it's part of our master plan to have senior housing. We made that request, which was put forward to the state through that application, that we hoped to include a senior component in that. Outside of that project, I can't say that we've advocated, and that's the, I think the dicey part of that is, you look like you're advocating for a developer rather than for the senior housing when you start to work with them. So it's just, I think we need to be cautious about that and have the appearance of that.
Yeah, the optics are important.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can
So-
I ask, Ari, did the housing production plan come out yet, or is that still?
We can call Mr. Mark Resnick, the town planner, to the chair.
The housing production plan the draft was submitted to the state. They came back with a couple comments. One was we needed to identify some 40B sites, since we have several on the horizon. Those were added. We also needed to identify some town-owned sites that could be possibly put out for an RFP for some affordable housing. No size requirements, but we do have to have a couple legitimate sites. The planning board has been discussing that. So until they come to a satisfactory set of parcels to be included, that's where this plan stands now. Then it gets forwarded to the select board. If they approve the revisions to the plan, then the final version goes to the state.
So in layman's terms, do we have a production plan in place, an approved production plan, or no?
Well, no, technically we don't. We approved one, but then the state kicked it back.
Got it.
So we're told.
So that means,
It
so
sounds
that
like
means
they
we
moved the
don't have it.
goalposts. They moved the goalpost after they told us what it needed to be, so now they wanted more stuff.
Okay. So what does that mean for developers to come in? If what I hear what you're saying is we don't have one that's approved by the state, even though we submitted it, and it was submitted but returned with comment, and it's not active right now, is that correct? We don't have an active approved. What does that mean if we're not in safe harbor? Is that the correct term, safe harbor?
You can't deny one.
Yeah.
So if a developer comes in and we're not in safe harbor, we don't have an approved plan, does that affect the developer's ability to develop? Or does it enhance it, where since we don't have safe harbor, we don't have the plan, they could come in and do
Well,
whatever's allowed under law?
my understanding, and Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, but we can't claim safe harbor because we don't have a housing production plan that's been approved.
Okay, and because of that, how does it affect a developer's ability to develop in Lakeville?
So, so even if we adopt the plan, the next project that comes in that is approvable, you know, that meets the standards, and the zoning board feels comfortable granting it approval, needs to be approved if it meets the standards, because we haven't produced any large number of units to claim safe harbor in the recent, within the last 12 or 24 months.
Okay,
So if we approve another large project that meets the numerical standard, we could claim safe harbor for 1 or 2 years, depending on the number of units.
okay.
But we have to have the plan in place.
So I know that I read on, I read, I think it was on Facebook, with regards to Rhino has a meeting coming up for the Lakeville property. Is that an example of if they come in and they have a plan and we're not in safe harbor, we don't have the housing production plan, and it meets the criteria, then they could put that development in, as they're talking about with all the different, there are the various components. Was age restricted, I think, in some other units.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is, well, if they do age qualified housing, is how the zoning, that's by right, so that has nothing to do with.
It's not a 40B.
40B.
Okay, excellent, okay.
They would have, my understanding is they would have a 40B component, so.
Okay, and that component of that plan would have to be approved, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Go to the zoning board.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we have to identify town sites. I don't think the town owns enough land anywhere.
We identified the landfill, but they said that was not suitable.
So, yeah,
Why?
but I mean, any
Why
other
wouldn't it be?
parcel,
Other towns have developed theirs.
really?
There's a big part of the town of Cambridge that's built purely on a dump.
We thought that it was a great site, where 40Bs aren't always the most desired by the residents, so it would satisfy the needs of the requirement to finish the housing production plan. And if a developer so chose there, it would be challenging. That's all.
Yeah, okay.
There would maybe cost involved with finding suitable bearing to put foundations and,
Are there other large sites the town owns, or is that must be pretty much
They're
it?
not required necessarily to be large sites, they just need to
Okay.
be
Well, enough to-
practical sites to develop. So, I mean, if the town could show that the landfill site, because of the way it was capped and closed, and there was additional land that would make sense to be developed, then the state might approve it.
and it's not far from the train, the commuter rail, so.
But, you know,
Yeah.
we do use some of it, and we don't really know, haven't done any research to how it was closed and whether it would be allowable to be.
Well, we don't use any of that parcel, we use the separate parcels for the transfer station, all those are broken off in separate pieces. So that standalone piece isn't used, it's just fenced in. So, again, that's where we're at, is we made that suggestion and we get pushback from Serped, and we just get frustrated because we feel like we're doing the best for the town and they just say no, and we see no communication of where that no came from.
Right, and I guess my concern is that we talked we talk about the character of Lakeville, right? The rural character, to define it. If it's defined, that's why I kind of asked the question today about the neighborhood, to define character, with a larger meaning in this meeting for like the town, the rural character. What does it mean to us, and can we define it? So when we have plans in place that people want to develop here, that we could have it, be clear, hey, this is the rural character. And I know that, again, I joked about I'm a newcomer to Lakeville, only been here since 1968, but it's changed a lot since I was a kid. It's grown exponentially, and 18105, especially 105 going into Middleborough. And I know that we have a plan, obviously this is what we're trying to do, but my concern is if these places can be developed and they are developed, how is that going to change not only the character of Lakeville, right, but our tax base, our resources, our schools, police, fire. That's what I'm concerned about. And I'm just not sure what, if anything, we can do at this point, to kind of stem the tide. And that's where, that's why I wanted to hear about the planning board. And, it sounds like you are and have done things that are in the matrix. Is there anything else that we can do to help strengthen our position? Is someone saying no? If they don't live here, why are they saying no? They don't have a vested interest. I know a couple of years ago, we had a meeting with Senator Rodericks, and he had mentioned that then Governor Baker uses data to make decisions. And they were talking about high-density housing, and my answer was, well, high-density housing is incompatible with the master plan. It's not what the townsfolk want. We don't want high-density housing, and his argument was, well, the governor uses data. I said, well, the governor doesn't live in Lakeville. The governor lives in Swampscott. What vested interest does he have here, right, other than being governor at that time? So I think for the people that live here, that a lot went into the master plan, a lot's gone into the matrix. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, all the committees. And I just don't know what else, collectively we could do to stem the tide, because right now I'm a little nervous that we don't have the housing production plan. We have the property that could, that portion. Do you happen to know at the top of your head, like how much of the Lakeville Hospital area would be 40B? Is that something that we don't know? We don't know because we haven't met with them, right?
We haven't met with them, so
Okay.
we don't really know.
But we will once they
They're
meet.
making that, having that information session on December.
December.
Yes,
Yep.
I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think that, and it'll be news to all of us.
Oh, okay. I appreciate
What's
it.
the date?
December 5th, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Where is that?
At the library.
Yes.
And it's kind of, the way they said it on Facebook, they made an updated statement where the original kind of statement was they were gonna have this meeting and they were gonna present. It's not gonna be that way. What they're gonna do, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone please, is that they're gonna have tables set up around for about 90 minutes. They're gonna have tables set up, little stations for different components of what they're gonna talk about. So it gives the public the opportunity to come in and to say, go to the first station and talk to somebody about whatever that station is presenting, and then go to the next, and the next. And then answer questions and have dialogue with them to answer any concerns that the public may have. Is that accurate, Ari?
I saw the letter myself yesterday, and that sounds about what they're describing.
Yeah.
I mean, I know their intention is a by right development, that's all I know.
Yeah.
Sounds like they want to answer the same 5 questions 50 times.
If they're
gonna get
compelled.
asked individually at tables as people walk around and go from table to table.
Yeah.
And I think you're gonna find they'll probably end up answering the same questions multiple times.
Yep.
Rather than do the Q&A.
Right, and just to be clear too, you know, with the development of the Lakeville Hospital property, which has been hotly contested for a long time, and we still sit here how many years later, and it's still undeveloped and, you know, an eyesore. Our position on the committee, being that we're not a policy-making committee, it's how it relates to the master plan. So if it's developed or undeveloped, or how it's developed, we're interested in insofar as how does it relate to the master plan, and then how are we going to adjust it and then implement the master plan. So the longer I'm on this committee, and you know, I've been on the committee for quite a long time, it just seems that we keep developing and developing in Lakeville, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And I just don't see any end at this point. I've asked the question before, and it might be an unfair question because it's just such an open question, but if Lakeville were to develop all the land that is available legally to develop, where would we top out at, like census-wise? Because what are we, close to 12 now, or are we over 12?
Just under 12.
Just under 12,000. When I was a kid, there was, I don't know, 4,000, right, Rita? 4, 5,000?
Maybe 5.
It's like
5,000.
11,800 and change now.
What's that?
It's like 11,800 and change
Yeah.
now.
So my question is, we're at 11.8, which is, you know, over double when I was a kid. What's it gonna be in the future if all the land can be developed? That's all. And is that gonna fundamentally change the character of the town? Because this committee, we're supposed to implement the master plan, and I feel somewhat, when I've had discussions with my colleagues and others, that I almost, yeah, we can implement it, but we don't really have any authority. So we have to work collaboratively with the different committees to encourage them to do what they can do in their scope of responsibility to, you know, to follow along and to implement what people want.
I think the biggest thing that residents can do is the next time we create a master plan, be very vocal. Be involved throughout the process.
Yeah.
Because I think it's almost like a dog chasing its tail type of a process where, you know, now we're going through that with the housing production plan where it goes to SERPED because we're paying them for the service of help us do that. But it gets trickled in with all this state stuff to get the state funding for certain things. So you won't comply unless you do this. And those necessarily aren't things that the residents of Lakeville might want, but they won't approve it unless you put it in. And that's part of that vocal portion of people need to speak out and say no.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I've actually made the statement where something similar to exactly what you said, but my position is, okay, then we don't do it. Well, how much money are we going to lose? Because you need money to run a town, right? Well, then if you lose money, you got to adjust your budget. It's that simple. If we're going to fight for the character of the town, and that means not accepting certain components that the state wants us to do, and it's like when the speed limit was 55, right? Well, if your speed limit's over 55, we're not going to give you, I think there was a federal program, but we're not going to give you federal funds for your highways. People still drove whatever they drove, you know, 55, 65, say whatever it was. Well, the same principle applies to us. Do we have to do it? If the answer is no, we don't have to do it, we're gonna suffer financially, can we associate a cost with that? 50 grand, 500 grand, $1 million, how much is it gonna cost us if we don't comply? Right?
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
No, I know,
Yeah.
it's a rhetorical question, but this is my position. And you're right, I agree with you 100%. People need to be vocal and they need to step up and say, no, we're not gonna take it. This is what this isn't what we want.
So,
Yeah, the state might want it, but we don't.
so with the housing production plan, there's no financial penalties. It's just you do not have the ability to claim safe harbors.
Right.
And again, safe harbor is some communities just don't want to do a housing production plan for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just don't have the ability to claim safe harbor. Remember, it's only for 1 or 2 years, depending upon.
Mm-hmm.
So you would then, so that's like the normal planning process time for a large development to go through before they file anyways with the
Right.
zoning board. So it's, there are some advantages to having a housing production plan, some other things. But it's,
But also not, go ahead.
I'm sorry, what is the disadvantage of not claiming safe harbor?
is that you can have back-to-back 40Bs and that you have to process, review, and if they meet the standards, you have to approve them. You can't say no.
So damned if we do and
Damned if you don't. So then that loops us back to the master plan and the character of the town. So it's frustrating.
I used as an indicator, something that in my life has been rapidly increasing. I would say 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I might get 1 or 2 offers by mail to buy my land. It's weekly from everywhere.
Yeah.
Because it's so, people just go online now. You name the state and there's some giant development company, wanna buy your land, wanna sell your land, wanna sell your
Yeah.
land. And then same thing with mail, at least once a week. So I get my file folder, it's getting thick.
Thought you'd put it in file 13 after you put it through the shredder. So,
No, I hang on to them.
well, thank you, Mr. Knox. I appreciate that. Is there any information you'd like to give us and some advice on what we could, as a committee, do?
No, I think probably.
To help strengthen this,
Well,
strengthen the plan.
like I say, I think in the drafting of the next master plan, we need to get more involvement from the town.
By the way, we did have a lot of participation and a lot of great feedback, and that's what we created the master plan on, was the community input. And we had at the Assawan.
I think we had 6 public
Six
workshops.
public
and we had good
workshops.
turnout.
I remember seeing, when we were looking at the drafts, I remember seeing the sign-in sheets, and I recognized a lot of the people's names. Sylvester Zinkowitz was one,
Yeah.
the Tomatoes.
God rest his soul.
But I want to say it was only about 50 people.
Well, that's considered good.
Well, we need 150 next time.
Yeah, so I think out of 11,800, how many registered voters? 7,000?
7.
How many?
1,000.
7 or so.
7,000, so, it's like town meeting. We were at town meeting there the other night, and we just made quorum
just
of
made
100.
quorum. Yep.
So 100 out of 7,000 is not a really good percentage. And so, but business is done in this way. This is our town government, and 100 and something people affect the fate
No,
of.
but maybe
12,000.
a different vehicle for people to participate might be beneficial. Maybe you have some sort of a template form that's posted on the town's website when it's time to draft a new master plan, and let them fill in an email, so they don't maybe have to
did
show
that.
up for a
We
workshop.
did that.
We actually did
Did
that.
you get a lot
We
of them?
did
Oh, yeah.
a lot online.
So we did mail, we did physical mail, correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong, physical mail with the bills, the taxes, correct?
Yeah,
And then we also had an online, so it might be that we're not getting the word out enough. I don't check the clicks on, and I don't know if LakeCAM knows, but I don't know how many people are watching the meetings collectively, this meeting and yours and others.
Can we send a notice home with school kids?
no,
No,
no.
for the.
But to get this information out, I agree with you 100%. And we just have to leverage technology and leverage the word. I think it's information overload at this point. People are just so inundated. And then quite honestly, in today's economy and where we're at, people aren't really worried about a master plan. They're worried about putting food on the table, right? Because of inflation and other market forces. So it's a tough time. And, you know, if that's going to lead to, you know, future development here with high density housing, with the MBTA and others, it's going to fundamentally change us. And I'm just not sure if, I'm sure people don't want that. And it's okay. You know, it's okay to dig our heels in and say, this is Lakeville and this is what we want. And
That's not what we want.
And that's not what we want, correct, yep. Well, thank you.
So I think moving forward, I liked Rita had kind of included me in the emails the last couple of weeks. Probably something that we could do back, meaning the planning board, send back, like when we update our goals. You'll see all of what we're working on, not necessarily master plan things.
Yep.
But to keep you in the loop of what's going on, maybe on a monthly basis.
To everybody.
We don't update our goals either. It's probably quarterly. Just
trying to do the
gotta work
week to
through
week
'em.
business.
Well, it's sometimes you do get on a focus, but sometimes it takes 3 or 4 meetings to complete the debate, you know, to get to a point where everybody agrees before you actually complete the goal. So we're not gonna say, hey, we argued again this week, but, you know.
So do we want as a committee, just think about the quarterly updates and if it's no extra effort, where you've got it, it's just an email to this committee? I think that's reasonable. I don't want you to go out of your way and to do additional ones just for us, but if we could just have some updates, that'd be great.
Absolutely. And if you don't hear from us, shoot me an email. Just say, hey, you know, do you have anything coming up for us?
All right. Really appreciate that.
Do you know what's going on with the Route 44, the old Lakeville nurseries? Thought it was,
It's a little stagnant right now.
yeah.
He had it approved for something, then he got it back through the ZBA for something else that was automotive related. And I just think from what I heard, I think the cost of steel, because it would have been a steel structure, was one of the potential tenants walked away because of the cost that would have been involved with the lease because of the cost of steel, just material.
I thought I just saw an excavator show up there.
I did see some stuff going on the other day, but I don't know if I haven't heard anything from him specifically, so I don't know if he's just gonna do the land clearing and start just to get something done, or if he's gonna actually move forward with what he has approved, because he does have a plan approved.
To do what?
Build a.
It's a large commercial building. The last
Oh, okay.
he had a big L-shaped one, then he came back to make it rectangular.
Okay.
A car dealership wanted to actually work on electric vehicles, and they wanted a spot specific for that. And then that's the last I heard of, was that it wasn't looking like it was gonna work out, so.
And then the A-frame site, I guess, is
That's still
stagnant again.
stagnant
right?
still.
I think that's sold after he came through, got approved through the planning board site plan review for
Okay.
what would have been, I wanna say 80% restaurant, and then another space for another business to rent. And then it just never
Did
happened.
that ever come before conservation? Because I didn't think we had anything on them through conservation. I thought there was still some issues they had to deal with. Did we ever give them an order of conditions?
I thought we did, but I thought there were changes to our plan, because we had discussed that.
And somehow, you know, the part of Middleborough that's right attached to that piece of property, there was some concern about that too.
Yeah.
So, 2 businesses that would help us,
Yeah, those would be good taxpayers.
Yes, it would be. Okay. Is there any other observations, comments, or discussion?
I'd like to see Mark hang on for a discussion of number 4, because he's on the
Are you
Conservation
available,
Commission
Mr. Knox,
also.
to stay around for item number 4 to discuss meeting with another board, committee, or commission?
At the last meeting, I suggested, obviously, conservation, and I'd like your input on that.
For conservation to meet with master plan?
Yeah.
I didn't look at the matrix to see what the involvement is,
Yeah.
but I don't
We're-
disagree with that.
We're on that on a lot of things, yeah.
It's either that or, well, it's probably worth having communication, at least
Oh,
for,
yeah, yeah.
the discussion, but to start the discussion,
Yep,
and maybe do
yep.
the email updates also.
Yep.
Cause that's another board that we have that week, the monthly business that we just have to do.
Yep.
Um,
Are you meeting 2 times a month now?
This is the only month we aren't, cause our second meeting would have fallen on Thanksgiving.
That makes it. Nothing wrong with that. That'd be a great meeting day. Leisurely, good meal,
Nap.
nap.
A little bit of football. All right. So what other committee, so Conservation Commission?
Well,
Just
so
for
I'm
committee?
looking right now on, page 5, priority protection plan. I think Mark has something going on right now with priority protection, priority development parcels through Serped.
Yeah, the state was gonna pay to have it updated, right?
Yes, the Serped is updating the priority protection plans for all the communities along the South Coast Rail.
Yep.
Which is where that funding came from, was from the rail funding. So they are going to be reaching out to have meetings with planning board, select board, and other committees as is necessary. So probably after the new year is my understanding.
Yeah, that rail goes right behind our neighborhood down to Fall River, and it's been very disruptive.
Well, it doesn't come too far from you, Mark, right?
It abuts my property,
A bunch of.
but it's
But it's
quarter
ways
mile,
away. yeah.
quarter mile back, but
Yeah, ours is a little bit closer, and we live behind the high school, and yeah,
that's the same line.
It's the
yes.
same line, yeah.
I
That's
could
correct.
walk there on the tracks, you could do that.
Hey, not allowed to do that, not saying we either confirm nor deny. But, right, so, you know, these things have impact to the quality of our life. And I know personally, I mentioned the train, the rails, we never heard, but maybe a slight rumble once every, who knows when.
You're going back to the 70s? I remember hearing the train whistles.
At the crossings.
I grew up just a ways down that way, but I think it must have been whoever it was back then, Cameron Ashley or Abco or the
Oh, yeah.
siding up
At
here.
the siding.
You
right,
could hear
yeah.
the train occasionally, but it wasn't a rumble. It
No,
was just a
now
whistle
it's-
in the distance.
Yeah, we hear it, it's very loud, it makes our house shake. And, you know, it's not,
Is it going higher speed now or no?
no, but it's such a big locomotive,
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
so,
Wait till they're doing 70.
well, that's,
Or
I know.
even, I think even more than that.
Well, that's what they told me at the public
Yeah.
hearing, was
Right.
it,
and then
You
how
can
many
count on
trips,
70.
how many trips a day?
Oh, lots.
And at what time?
26, I think.
Yeah, 26, and what time's it gonna end?
11 at night or
It's
something.
gonna drop our values.
Yeah, yeah.
It's already affecting our, you know, it's already quite affecting our quality of life. We never heard the train, and then all of a sudden, all the time, I know they're working on it and everything, but not particularly happy that it's gonna be flying by us at, 26 times a day at, 70 miles an hour.
One thing it will be doing is reducing some vehicular traffic in town.
I hope so.
Yeah.
That was
That's what they
the
say.
one, I hope that happens, because I know when they looked at moving the stations further south to New Bedford and Fall River, they drove through the parking lot up there and they noticed most of the plates were coming from those areas. So I think, to Joe's point, the hope is they get on the train there and 79's traffic gets reduced and
Right,
all those, this just, it's inundated with people
Yeah.
end of the day coming out of there and
That's brutal.
Pulling out of my house on Highland Road at 20 minutes of
Tea
6.
time.
stream of traffic.
Stream,
yeah.
unbroken stream,
Yeah.
all coming from the same direction.
So this is what I'm talking about, there's cause and effect, and, this is gonna fundamentally change us. Yeah, on one hand, it's a great opportunity to get some cars off the road, 79 and Highland and some other areas in Lakeville, but others,
Hopefully.
and others,
'Cause I-
in neighborhoods that have historically been quiet, now we're not gonna be quiet. And then we have to make a decision, what are we gonna do?
I think you'll get used to the noise, cause I hear the train where I live. I can hear it all the way up to my house.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. My house
I'm gonna say
doesn't
that's a
shake.
hard no.
My house doesn't shake, but,
Our
Does it
shakes.
affect the
definitely-
schools at all?
Sorry,
Is it affecting the schools at all? Are they hearing the noise and the
I-
shaking?
They must.
they're gonna have to because it's right behind
right,
the
yeah,
house.
close
right
enough.
behind
They'll
them.
hear
They're
it.
close enough, yeah. But anyway, okay. So planning board, conservation, who else? We
You said
discussed
zoning board last
Zoning
time.
board last time?
ZBA, huh?
Is CPC meeting after this?
Tonight?
Yeah,
No,
no, that was last meeting?
that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Yeah, if you had to play, thank you for stepping up and speaking with us. I really appreciate that. I know everyone's time is busy, or, their time is valuable too, so.
I mean, yeah, we got a great plan here, all annotated and everything
Yeah.
now.
All right. Any other input for boards, committees, people? Hearing none. All right, in the interest of time, we'll move forward to scheduling the next meeting. All right,
May I exit?
yes,
Through with me?
thank you for your time, sir. We greatly appreciate it, and if we don't talk, have a
Thanks for
happy and
having
healthy
me.
Thanksgiving, and thank you
Yeah,
for
have a
taking
nice
the time out of your
Thanksgiving.
schedule to come see us and update us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, be well, safe travels.
Thank
Stay much.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Yep, you too.
Mr. Resnick, thank you again. We appreciate it, sir. Okay, so next meeting.
Let's skip December.
I'm gonna say let's skip December too. I think we all need a break and come back refreshed and recharged after the first of the year, so. Let's take a look, see what our schedules are like for January.
So it would be either
We wanna go,
the second and the
Second
fourth.
and fourth. Yeah.
okay, the 8th, so the Tuesday, right? So the 9th or the 23rd? Would you be available the 9th, Ari?
I will still be here.
Okay,
In this particular room all that time?
No, Joe.
you gotta go home, don't you?
19th is my last day.
Okay. That's, okay, so let's do it with the 9th, please.
Okay. 6 PM at the police station?
Yeah, that works.
The ninth.
I'll book the
Okay,
room.
the 9th at 6. Okay, appreciate that. Any other business that may properly come before the meeting? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
A motion to
Second.
adjourn.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.